what really pushes a person over the edge to commit an act that seems, well, unthinkable? Is it desperation, a twisted philosophy, or maybe even a desire to save someone you love? Today, we're going to dive deep into one of literature's most famous crimes and explore the psychological storm that's brewing inside a killer's mind right before the act.
So, let's start with this thought from our main character. He's thinking about doing something terrible, this grand, dark thing. But what's stopping him? It's not a crisis of conscience, not really. It's the small stuff, the trifles. This one line just perfectly captures the strange paralysis of a man standing right on the precipice.
So who is this man? Let's meet him. His name is Rodion Raskolnikov. He's a former student living in St. Petersburg, and he is a man completely torn in two. His mind is basically a war zone, a battle between the extraordinary person he believes he is and the grim, miserable reality he's actually living in.
And the gap between these two sides of him is just immense. On the one hand, Raskolnikov is convinced he's exceptional. He's smart, he's proud, he's above the ordinary rules. But on the other hand, the reality is he's completely crushed by poverty. He lives in this tiny attic room he calls a cupboard. He's dressed in rags, and he's so deep in debt he literally has to creep down the stairs like a cat just to avoid his landlady.
And we're talking about a really deep kind of isolation here. It's not just about ducking the person he owes rent to. He's gotten so lost inside his own head, so cut off from the world, that he dreads the very idea of meeting anyone. This is more than just being shy. It's this agonizing feeling of being completely disconnected from all of humanity.
So what is this grand, dark idea he's so obsessed with? You see, his anxiety isn't just about being poor. For over a month, he's been turning over what he calls a hideous dream. He's not just daydreaming about it, he's planning a murder.
And listen, this isn't some vague fantasy. He is rehearsing it, step by step. He's meticulously planned everything. He knows the exact route, he's picked his target, an old pawnbroker. He's even done a dry run, a test visit, where he pawns a cheap watch just to scout out her apartment. He notices every little detail, the bell, where she keeps her keys, even how the sun hits the room. He actually thinks to himself, so the sun will shine like this then too.
And this number, 730, this tells you everything you need to know about his obsession. He counted them. Not about 700, but exactly 730 steps. It shows you a mind that's on the one hand lost in these grand theories, but on the other, terrifyingly focused on the concrete details of violence. But then, right after this rehearsal, he's just hit with this wave of disgust. See, he's not some cold-blooded killer. The actual reality of his plan, the sheer filthiness of it, it just repulses him. This battle between the idea in his head and the ugly reality of it is tearing him apart.
So, trying to escape his own thoughts, Raskolnikov wanders into a dirty tavern. And in this place, he meets a man whose story is about to pour gasoline on the fire of his own dark ideas.
He runs into a drunkard named Marmeladov, and this man makes a really important distinction. He says, poverty, that's one thing, but beggary, total, complete, humiliating destitution, that's a vice. It's a state where you aren't just poor, you're swept out of society with a broom, just to make it as degrading as possible.
And Marmeladov just unloads his entire tragic story on this total stranger. He talks about how he lost his job to drinking, how his proud wife is dying from tuberculosis, and how his own daughter Sonia has been forced into prostitution just so the family can eat.
And then he hits Raskolnikov with this one devastating detail. After selling herself, his daughter Sonia came home and without a word gave her father her last 30 kopecks so he could go get a drink. And he took it. He actually took the money. So what's the most painful part for Marmeladov? It's not her anger or her yelling, it's her silence. She didn't blame him. She just looked at him. And as he says, that quiet pity, that lack of any accusation, that hurts more than anything.
Raskolnikov leaves the tavern completely shaken up. He gets back to his tiny room, and there's a letter from his mother waiting for him. And this letter, well, this is the final push. This is the thing that's going to shove his hideous dream into horrifying reality. The letter starts off with some old news. His sister, Dunya, who had been working as a governess, was propositioned by her gross employer, a guy named Svidrigailov. She was publicly shamed for a while before her name was finally cleared.
But now, there's good news. Or at least his mother thinks it's good news. Dunya is engaged to be married.
So who's the lucky guy? A man named Pyotr Luzhin. And the letter shares his charming philosophy on marriage. Turns out he specifically wanted to marry a poor girl because, in his words, it is better for a wife to look upon her husband as her benefactor. Yeah, you heard that right. Raskolnikov is instantly furious.
And it clicks for him in an instant. He knows exactly why she's doing this. This isn't about love. It's a sacrifice. She is marrying this awful, demeaning man to save the family, and most of all, to secure a future for her beloved brother, for him.
And just like that, in his tormented mind, two people become one. Sonia, the prostitute from the tavern, and his own sister Dunya. He suddenly sees them both making the exact same sacrifice. And in his head, there's absolutely no difference between them. On one side, you have Sonia selling her body with a yellow ticket to stop her family from starving. On the other, you have Dunya selling herself in a respectable, legal marriage for her brother's career. To him, they're the same. He even thinks Dunya's situation is somehow worse, because it's a bargain for a comfortable life, not just for bread. His reaction is just explosive. It's a raw, furious rejection. He absolutely refuses to be the reason his sister degrades herself like this. He will not accept this sacrifice. It simply shall not happen.
Okay, so he's not going to let it happen. But how? How does he stop it? He can't just forbid it. What right does he have? He's been living on their charity, taking the money they scraped together for him. He has absolutely nothing to offer them as an alternative.
And in this exact moment, with all this pressure crashing down on him, that hideous dream comes rushing back. But it's different now. The abstract theory, the intellectual puzzle, it suddenly takes on a new, menacing shape. It's not a fantasy anymore. It looks like a solution, a way out.
And this brings us to the terrifying question at the absolute heart of it all. Raskolnikov starts to wonder, what if the moral laws that bind everybody else are just made up? What if, for certain extraordinary people, there are no barriers? What if, for a great man, doing something terrible is all as it should be? And that's the question that hangs over everything, pushing him one last final step toward the unthinkable.